And so welcome to the top 11 list. And why is that? It's because top 10 lists suck. And you know what? Like Dan Campbell said, it takes more. So our lists go to 11 because it takes more. So
okay.
What is...
Wait, couldn't you just make it 12?
12? 12? I mean, 12 what? 12 days of Christmas? I mean, dude, it's like July. What are you even talking about? Not 12, 11. 11. That's
right. Besides, Aaron Rodgers wears number 12. So
okay. There. Get him out of there.
So let's start it off right now with my list. So we've got my list and Russ's list. And we'll start with my list. And it's almost like you were psychic here, Ken Fisher, because he says Noah Fant of the Seattle Seahawks comes in at number 11 on Main Event Mike's top 11 tight ends of the NFC. I think what hurts this guy is the system that he played in under Pete Carroll. Pete Carroll loved to play 3 tight ends, and he continually mix up that target share among those 3 tight ends. Last year, he had Disley, Parker, right? Now those guys are gone, and there's a new coach in there named Mike McDonald. And Mike McDonald is going to make Noah Fant the tight end 1 on 90% of the plays. He's a good tight end. He was a good tight end in Denver. The guy can block. He's good enough to make this tight end list. The only thing that makes me wonder about him is target share. When you've got DK Metcalf, too many mouths to feed, Tyler Lockett, Jackson Smith and Jigma now, K9 running the ball. So I think this offense has a lot of firepower. Geno Smith, mid, but definitely a lot of weapons, and they're a dangerous team. And Noah Fant can be a dangerous player. Yeah, 414 yards, and that's split in time. So we'll definitely see an uptick in that, but not enough to get him into the 800 range, which it takes to be a top 5 tight end on this list. So there's my number 11 pick.
I like Noah Fant a lot. Like, actually, I was teeter-tottering between him, and he did average 12.9 yards a reception. So he was a pretty big play guy when he was out there, even though he was in that like top target share. And then he was a really, really good in pass blocking. So that, when you're talking about a complete tight end, he just wasn't out there enough to be in my top 11. But my 11th tight end comes from Atlanta right here. And I like Jonnu Smith right here. And all of his stats really just jumped out at me. And I know he's not the primary guy over there, but 692 yards. He was very good in blocking. And when you look at his metrics, even against guys on his own team, he was right there with those. And I couldn't unsee where he ranked in the top 11. He ranked in the top 10 in almost every single category. So I couldn't keep him out. And I was teeter-tottering between a couple of guys right there. Noah Fant was one of them, but when I'm looking at Jonnu Smith's number, he was just better everywhere.
Those are respectable numbers, and he's the number 2 tight end on his team. Arthur Smith used to be the coach for the Tennessee Titans, so he was familiar with Jonnu Smith, and he brought him over there to Atlanta. And we know now, of course, Arthur Smith, now the defensive coordinator for the Pittsburgh Steelers, Raheem Morris, the new coach in Atlanta. So I don't know if losing that familiarity is going to hurt Jonnu Smith's number. But I can tell you, a couple of weeks last year, Jonnu blew it up. And a couple of guys on my fantasy team in my league had Jonnu Smith starting on those blow-up weeks, and it won them a couple of weeks. So definitely Jonnu Smith, dangerous. And Russell Wayne has him at number 11 on his list of top 11. All right, so moving on. We're moving on to number 10. Put it in the comments. Tell us what you think about this list that goes to 11 of the best tight ends in the NFC.
Number 10 tight end in the NFC. Brought to you by the Villain Squad.
All right, do it. What do you got? What's Russell Wayne's number 10?
It's really funny that they just brought that up, but I got Luke Musgrave as the number 10 tight end. I mean, he came in, for being injured, there's a whole bunch of reasons to really like Luke Musgrave. You're talking about a guy can make stuff happen after he gets the ball in his hand. Actually, both of the tight ends. It's like when you look at both their tight ends together, Tucker Kraft and Luke Musgrave, if you combined them into one tight end, you would probably have a top 5 tight end. But, but they use both of their tight end. He's kind of a little bit lower on this list, but I think that he has a chance to be a top 5 tight end this next year. But Luke Musgrave, my number 10 tight end in the NFC.
Ken Fisher agrees with you. He's got Luke Musgrave at number 10 as well. And for me, my number 10, I'm with John here. Jake Ferguson from the Dallas Cowboys, number 10 on Main Event Mike's list. Look at that, 854 yards. That's a pretty solid year. 8 touchdowns and a pass block grade of 73.1 by PFF. Dak Prescott's got CeeDee Lamb out there, but he's got no one in the backfield. Ezekiel Elliott from 1 yard out's good, but the days of him being a bell cow back are probably over. Nobody behind that. You've got Brandon Cooks, who's really long in the tooth as well. So other than CeeDee Lamb, he's going to need this Jake Ferguson to step it up this year. So I think he's going to get plenty of targets. He's going to rank real high. He's going to be a great tight end addition in fantasy leagues in later rounds. I think you're going to be able to get Jake Ferguson. They also have Schoonmaker from Michigan who might eat into them targets because he had a real good rookie year last year. So he might creep in there as well. But they certainly don't miss Dalton Schultz with a year with like 854 yards from Jake Ferguson. So he comes in number 10 on Main Event Mike's list.
I think it's your turn to go first in this. You're going to go twice in a row. This is going to be a snake draft.
Okay, that's fine. That's fine. Because my guy at number 9 is the same guy you had at number 10. And that's Luke Musgrave from the Green Bay Packers. You had Aaron Jones, okay? If you'd have kept Aaron Jones, Luke Musgrave probably wouldn't have made this list for me. He didn't show me enough in his first year. 418 yards, not too impressed with that. Now that you have lost Aaron Jones, who was great at catching the ball out of the backfield, Josh Jacobs, not so much. He's still a decent receiver out of the backfield, but not so much like Aaron Jones. So those targets now, Luke Musgrave might get some more targets, and that makes him crack my list here at number 9.
So who do you got? We got where our lists go up to 11. And I wanted to explain to everybody right here, this is actually a different challenge in this, because I really believe that this gives us a chance to highlight some other players that might not get a lot of highlight because maybe not in the top 5. A lot of people know who the top 5 tight ends are, but a lot of people don't know some of these other guys that are up and coming. I like Luke Musgrave, and if you're a Packer fan, you love Luke Musgrave and you think he's the greatest in the world, but the outside world is getting introduced to Luke Musgrave. Number 9 now. Number 9 tight end in the NFC.
Yeah, it's in the NFC, John. So Freiermuth would probably rank somewhere at number 9 in the AFC ranking, I would think.
Yeah, we may do an entire NFL rankings, but we wanted to make sure that we could do the correct research. And I know Mike's got a 9 to 5 or 2. So we actually put time into this to really decide where we want to put these guys, and we just want to do it well. So my number 9 tight end is a king of solid. When you really think of just a solid tight end, and that's Cade Otton out of Tampa Bay. 610 yards, 6 touchdowns, just an overall grade of 75.3 in PFF. Just a really solid tight end all the way around. Not everybody has Travis Kelce or, Hawkinson or Laporta, Right. Sometimes you just got to go out there and just do the deeds. And Cade Otton, I think, is that guy. He's a serviceable tight end, does really, really well. Baker Mayfield, that offense right there. So Cade Otton, number 9 tight end in the NFC.
I love this pick, Russ. And last year, I had Mark Andrews in my fantasy league, and of course, you guys know he got hurt week 1 or 2. There were no tight ends in my league to pick up. I picked this guy up, and he did enough. You saw those 6 touchdowns. That was enough to win me a championship in my league. So great. I love this kid. And when you think about the mouths they have to feed there, Rashad White, an excellent pass catcher out of the backfield. Of course, Mike Evans and Godwin out there on the outside. Cade Otton stepped in, and he did the job. And he's a young player, and that's why he is my number 8 selection as we move up this list from the bottom. That's all right. Hey, that's our good friend Jeremy Ball. Good evening.
Good evening. We're ranking tight ends. You should do this stuff with us. Like, get your tight ends ready on the fly. But next week, we're going to be doing wide receivers, top 11 wide receivers in the NFC. And we're going to have our lists, and we can compare them with your lists, and it's going to be fun. We're going to do this exercise all off season.
Who do you have at number 8?
Who do I have at number 8? I got this guy. I got this guy from Arizona that I couldn't unsee. I'm just digging every time. A good young tight end right here, 825 yards, averaging over 10 yards of reception, and just his receiving grade. I mean, he's going to be just a solid target right there for Kyler Murray. And then they're going to have Marvin Harrison Jr. now too. Yeah, that looks like pretty good right there. I might even argue to have him even higher on the list, but for the time being right there, I got him slotted right in there at number 8.
Okay, I like it. Trey McBride, second-year player for Arizona, comes in at number 8 for Russell Wayne. So now in the true spirit of the snake draft, why don't you lead off with your number 7 pick?
My number 7 pick. Now, in our list, when you're talking about the NFC, I want everybody to understand that there's 16 teams in the NFC. So what's about to happen is a very, very rare thing. I actually have 2 players from one team that are in my top 11 as far as tight ends go. And I have the other Falcon tight end and Kyle Pitts as my number 7 and 667 yards, 12.6 yards a reception, 35 first downs. Now, I was looking, that was one of the stats that I thought was a telling stat to me. If you're a really, really good tight end, can you move the chains? Because that's what really good tight ends do, is they can move the chains. 36 first downs for Kyle Pitts right there. And he comes in at my number 7 tight end in the NFC.
For number 7 for me, this is where our lists are starting to change up a bit. Number 7 for me is Dallas Goedert from the Philadelphia Eagles. And Dallas Goedert is a very good tight end. Everybody knows he's a very good tight end. Last year, he had a terrible year. And the year before that, he had an average year. 613 yards is misleading because, believe me, guys that had him on the fantasy team, he wasn't scoring a lot of points. He'd just get a little bit each game. And now we play a 17-game schedule that looks like 637 yards. Dallas Goedert could be in talent higher on this list. But again, a lot of mouths to feed in Philly now with Saquon, A.J. Brown, Devontae Smith. That's a lot of firepower, and a running quarterback who is my number 1 ranked quarterback in the NFC. So, and also Dallas Goedert on the back 9 of his career as well. He really should be higher on this list than number 7, but that's where I got him. So if you're watching on YouTube, please hit an emoji or something. Like something, love something, put a heart up there, subscribe. If you're not subscribed, we still appreciate you watching. But man, that's the best way you can help us out, is subscribe to the channel at Villain Squad on YouTube. It's time now for number 6 on Main Event Mike's list. And it's a guy you had a couple slots down, and it's Trey McBride. Can you throw his stats? 852 yards last year, right? They had no one. This guy emerged. He was the first tight end taken a couple years in the draft. They had no one. They knew it was going to be a rebuilding year in Arizona, and this guy's actually ahead of the curve. His first year was really slow out of the gate. No Kyler Murray. Now he gets Kyler Murray back about a few games into the year. I think it was 6 games into the year. He gets Kyler Murray, and he puts up 852 yards. Now they got Marvin Harrison. They love to run the ball. Jonathan Gannon loves to run the ball. James Conner put a great great season. He made our list of top 11 running backs. So I think Trey McBride is poised to catapult himself as a top 5 tight end in this conference for next year. But right now, he comes in at number 6, just outside of that for Main Event Mike.
Love that pick. Trey McBride is one of those ascending guys. Like last year, he was the darling, the camp darling. I think it was drafted like the 2nd round. So they expected big things, and tight ends take a minute, and it's nice to see them making that jump. And as you get into my number 6, my number 6 tight end in the NFC is from the Windy City, Cole Kmet. 719 yards, 6 touchdowns, 36 first downs, and that's with a quarterback that doesn't know how to throw the ball. There you go. You had Cole Kmet right there, and really, he was locked in with about 4 people right here, and he was just right behind the next couple guys that I'm going to be putting up here, and you'll see why. But he's a complete guy. He's pretty good at run blocking, pretty good at pass blocking, just an all-around serviceable tight end. Cole Kmet, I mean, I would love to have him on the Lions. That's a solid dude. I love that. That's a bite of kneecap. That's a Dan Campbell type of tight end right there.
We're going to bite a kneecap off.
He is, and he's a Chicago native. They love him out there. But again, target share with him, right? They've got so many new weapons out there now to throw to, and
right.
a new guy throwing the ball. So we're doing the snake. So now we need your number 5 pick.
This was very, very close to me. Like these 2 tight ends right in a row right here. And number 5 is where I have Dallas Goedert at 613 yards, 34 first downs. And the thing that stood apart from him is that pass blocking grade that he had. He was in the top 5 in the blocking metrics. He's one of the best blocking tight ends in the NFL that also offers the receiving value. And that's very rare, those Jason Witten type of players. So I do have him ranked a smidgen ahead because he offers so much value in the running game, because you don't know whether he's going to pull out, go, and he complements a running game. So that's why I have him, but not much. Him and Cole Kmet are really neck and neck to me, but I have Dallas Goedert, number 5 tight end in the NFC.
And at my number 5, I'm going to defer here to our good friend Jeremy Ballwright, who, by the way, you can see we are also broadcasting into the Huddle Sports Network on Roku TV. And you can see Jeremy over there on Roku TV, also on his own page as well. So glad to have you in here. But Jeremy says 11 should be Kyle Pitts. Well, sorry, Jeremy, that's actually my number 5. Because like you say here, with Kirk Cousins throwing the ball now, maybe he won't be allergic to touchdowns. He's not going to be. Look at those numbers, 667. They got Drake London. And, a solid number 2 over there, too. They're going to be running and throwing to Bijan Robinson. They've already said they're going to feature Bijan Robinson. Look for Bijan Robinson to be going in top 5 of fantasy football drafts this year because of all the statements out of Atlanta about how they are going to feature him. That is also going to unlock Kyle Pitts. The run game is going to unlock Kyle Pitts. Kyle Pitts was one of the highest touted tight ends, highest drafted tight ends to come out in a long time. I think it was 5th or 6th overall by Atlanta, and he was an absolute monster in college. His career so far in the pros has been disappointing. And looking ahead at this year, and when I was analyzing this, man, I took Kyle Pitts in my fantasy league when he was a rookie and was burned by it. So I'm gun shy about taking Kyle Pitts. But now that Arthur Smith, the conservative play callers, all out of there, and I think that now, like Jeremy makes the point, with Kirk Cousins throwing him the ball, Kyle Pitts is a top 5 tight end in the NFC.
Can I make a point I forgot to make on Kyle Pitts? But in pass blocking, Kyle Pitts was number 2 in the NFC in pass blocking grade from PFF, and his counterpart pass blocking was number 3, Jonnu Smith. That just means that Atlanta knows how to pass block. They know how to use their tight ends. The illusion that all he can do is run fast and catch the ball, that is just a myth, and that is.
Number 4 on Main Event Mike's list is Cole Kmet. Because I realize there's a lot of new weapons there, a lot more mouths to feed now. Keenan Allen, but he'll probably be hurt by week 3. Romo Dunze is a rookie. And main number reason is Caleb Williams is a rookie. And who's a rookie quarterback's best friend besides a running game is a good tight end. And Cole Kmet's a good tight end. He's really going to help Caleb Williams. That's got him as high as number 4. I think Caleb Williams is going to lean on Cole Kmet this year. That veteran, like I said, the fans love him. He's a local Chicago guy. He's a solid runner, catches everything that's thrown at him. Like you said, I'd love to have this guy on my team. I have a lot of admiration and respect for Cole Kmet. Not enough to take him in fantasy, but enough to make him number 4 on my list of top 11.
My number 4 tight end in the NFC, Jake Ferguson.
Wow.
From the Dallas Cowboys. And just look at the stats. This is one of the guys. This is why I love doing these deep dives right here, because I had no idea, Mike, that he was that good. And I don't know if the viewers knew that he was that good, but every single metric. So when I'm looking through here, I want you guys to understand, when I'm looking through this little PFF thing in here, I'm not only am I looking at, you know, your yards, the amount of receptions, how many touchdowns you got, what your offensive grade was, how many first downs that you got for your team. Like, I put this all on a smorgasbord and then put the situation that they're going back into. All of this goes into a smorgasbord, and Jake Ferguson was really top 2 in most of the categories. He is proving to be a very, very solid. I mean, they love long-term tight ends down there in Dallas, and Jason Witten was a great one. I think Ferguson is showing signs that he might be another great tight end that is emerging. So, but Jake Ferguson, he is my number 4 tight end in the NFC.
I love it, Russ. I had Ferguson all the way down at number 10. Maybe it's my hate for the Cowboys influencing my list. I don't know. And we got some people here in the comments that agree with you as well. Craig says Ferguson was solid, very underrated. Paul says, I like Ferguson. He made me some monies last season. And with no Tony Pollard there this year, and Brandon Cooks eligible for Social Security soon, I think that you're going to see Jake Ferguson be a fantasy draft steal in the late rounds this year. And that's why he comes in at number 4 on Russell Wayne's list of top 11 tight ends. Number 3 for main event, Mike, is TJ Hawkinson. I know he had an ACL injury late in the season, but he had the surgery like the next day. I think he might only miss a week or 2, if any. They say he's on track on his rehab. I did look into that before I put him on my list at all. I know Jeremy in his list, he's got him as low as 6 on Jeremy's list. But you can't deny there is going to be a target share issue there, especially now with Aaron Jones, one of the best pass-catching backs in Minnesota now. Is it now in Minnesota? And, of course, Jordan Addison, the stellar rookie season last year. He's legit. And Justin Jefferson, the best wide receiver in the league. The only thing that hampers this pick is who's going to throw him the ball. Sam Darnold, I think, is going to be better than people think. He's been better of late than he ever was with the Jets. The whole team around him was a dumpster fire at the Jets, and he was labeled a bust. He did really well in Carolina. Just ask the Detroit Lions. He carved us up and destroyed us. And he did that by running the ball, too, behind a good offensive line. And that's something else they have in Minnesota. So Sam Darnold and his gigantic head is going to
my quarterback.
Make TJ Hawkinson get the stats he needs to legitimize being picked number 3 of the top 11 tight ends in the NFC, because we all know the talent's there.
Oh, man. And I love that, too. I also have TJ Hawkinson at number 3. Now, I did talk to you earlier, and I was teeter-tottering. I had really thought about putting TJ Hawkinson at number 2, but you brought up a couple good points. One of them being he may not be ready for the start of the season. So we're talking about their current situation. So you have to take that into consideration. And he doesn't have a solid quarterback throwing to him yet, or at least we don't know when it comes to TJ Hawkinson. But you can't deny the numbers. I could never put him down that far low. I mean, even missing games, 960 yards, 5 touchdowns, 48 first downs. He was second in that category. Getting for a third in that category, and that's missing games too. So I know that we hate Hawkinson as Lions fans, but if we're really honest and we're really realistic, he is a top 3 tight end in the NFC.
J Mommy says when Hawkinson gets touched, he falls down.
We're going to bite a kneecap off.
Oh!
So that brings us to your number 2 pick, Russell.
Yep, and really it was teeter-tottering between TJ Hawkinson and our very own Sam Laporta in his first year. And obviously he has extra yards because he got to play playoff games. And yes, that should count. That should count for your overall stats. So he was top 2 in every single metric.
My number 2 is also Sam Laporta. 1,065 yards, 1,000-yard receiver from the tight end position. I'll take that every day and 3 times on Sunday. So Sam Laporta comes in number 2 on both Russell Wayne and my list. And that brings us to number 1. And number 1 for both of us as well, George Kittle from the San Francisco 49ers. And what we're seeing here is the top 3 tight ends in the NFC all went to the same college, tight end U. The Iowa Hawkeyes have produced number 1, George Kittle,
nice.
Sam Laporta, and TJ Hawkinson in the NFC. It's tight end U for a reason, and they produce some great tight ends, and George Kittle is a great tight end. He's not only a great tight end, he's a great leader, a great teammate, a great veteran, leadership. He's a threat to take the ball to the house, even over the middle. Every time he touches the ball, he blocks, one of the best blocking tight ends in the league. He does it all. Team captain. Sam Laporta is incredible. If it wasn't for George Kittle existing, he'd be number 1 on this list. These 2 tight ends, Laporta and Kittle, who finished top 2 in both of our lists for the villain squad today, and probably on your list too. Also Jeremy Ballreich's list.
Kittle is I gotta admit, is a level above Sam Laporta. And where it really stands out, as a receiver, I think they're very close. But George Kittle is a beast of a run blocker and a pass blocker. He is the most complete tight end. I think he's better than Kelsey in that way. I think Kittle might be the best tight end that's most complete in the NFL than Kelsey. And then you can make an argument for Laporta and Mark Andrews in that next tier down. But those guys are on a different level.
Honestly, thank you everyone for playing the game today with us. It is the top 11 tight ends here on the Villain Squad. Top 11 in the NFC. Next week, we're going to do wide receivers.